A human lived alone for years, until three beautiful alien princesses asked to stay the night. Captain Elias Rourke had grown used to the silence. Years alone on the remote planet of Kestara 9 had given him a strange kind of comfort. The winds that swept across the jagged plains, the quiet hum of his solar collectors, and the soft rustle of his small greenhouses were the only companions he had left. He had arrived here after a disastrous colonization mission. Most of his team had left for other planets, and the rest, well, time had claimed them. Now he was the sole human inhabitant, relying on his ingenuity, survival skills, and stubborn persistence. His outpost was a small cluster of reinforced modules, covered in dust and streaked with rust from Kestara 9 harsh storms. Despite its age, Elias had kept it functional, repairing what he could with salvaged parts from old spacecraft and leftover supplies. Every corner bore the mark of his careful hands. The hydroponic gardens thrived in their carefully regulated light, producing enough vegetables and herbs to keep him healthy. He had rigged water purification systems, solar-powered generators, and even a small drone for scouting the surrounding area. Elias had become an expert at making the impossible work with very little, the quintessential human trait of turning adversity into opportunity. It was late in the evening when Elias noticed a faint light on the horizon, flickering and moving against the dim orange sky. At first, he thought it might be a meteor or some atmospheric phenomenon, but the movement was too deliberate. He squinted through his binoculars and froze. Three small ships, elegant and unlike any human design he had ever seen, hovered uncertainly in the thin atmosphere. Their surfaces shimmered in soft hues of blue, silver, and green, and intricate patterns of light ran along their hulls. Elias felt a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Visitors were extremely rare in this part of the galaxy, and most interstellar travelers avoided isolated planets like his. He quickly activated the communication panel, trying to hail them, but the devices on their ships emitted unfamiliar frequencies. Clearly, they were not human, but they were intelligent. He made the decision that would change the quiet rhythm of his life. He would wait for them to land. By the time the ships touched down, the sun had set, leaving the sky painted in deep oranges and purples. The three aliens emerged, graceful and confident, yet exuding a calm politeness. They were humanoid in shape, but their features were strikingly different from humans. Their skin glowed faintly under the starlight, and their eyes held colors he had never seen before, shimmering pools of gold, violet, and silver. Their attire was elegant, flowing like liquid metal, yet seemed practical enough for travel. "We seek shelter for the night," said the tallest one, her voice melodic but firm. "Our ships have encountered technical difficulties." Elias blinked. The accent was unlike anything he had encountered, yet he understood every word. There was no aggression, only a quiet plea for help. He found himself nodding almost automatically. "You can stay here," he said. "I can help with your ships, but only as much as I can manage. Resources are limited." The three nodded in unison, their expressions softening. "That is more than sufficient," said the one with violet eyes. "We are grateful for your kindness." Elias led them inside the main module, offering them seating and water. He observed them carefully while they admired the human technology, subtle curiosity in their eyes. They asked questions, not about his life, but about how he had managed to survive alone for so long. Elias found himself smiling slightly. It was unusual to be admired for survival alone. "It's a matter of necessity," he said. "You learn to make the most of what you have. Every system, every piece of equipment has to be maintained or it fails, and I can't afford mistakes. Not here." The tallest one tilted her head, her golden eyes bright with interest. "Your resilience is remarkable. In our histories, humans are often underestimated, yet your capacity to endure and adapt is legendary." Elias felt a flush of pride. Humans had long been considered fragile by many interstellar civilizations, often overlooked in diplomacy and conflict. But he knew the truth. Humans had survived impossible odds, thrived in environments no other species could, and had an uncanny ability to solve problems creatively. "We don't survive by strength alone," he said quietly. "We survive by thinking, by learning, by refusing to give up." They spent the evening together. Elias prepared a simple meal using hydroponic vegetables, rehydrated grains, and spiced sauces he had cultivated over the years. The princesses, as he learned to call them, tried human food for the first time. They marveled at the flavors, laughing softly when Elias described some of the odd ingredients he had grown himself. They told him about their worlds, each a jewel of culture and technology, but also fraught with politics and dangers. He listened, fascinated by their tales of diplomacy, exploration, and cosmic intrigue. As the night deepened, Elias and the princesses turned their attention to the ships. He examined the damage, pointing out components that needed temporary repair so they could communicate with their home bases. Using jury-rigged tools, spare parts, and his ingenuity, he managed to stabilize the systems just enough for the princesses to rest without fear of drifting off course. He worked late into the night, hands steady, mind focused. The princesses watched quietly, their admiration growing with each deft movement he made. When Elias finally finished, he leaned back, exhausted but satisfied. The princesses expressed their gratitude. "You have done more than any of us expected," said the one with silver eyes. "We owe you our safety tonight." Elias waved off the compliment, smiling tiredly. "I've spent years alone. Helping you is a welcome change." For a while, there was silence, the kind that comes naturally after shared effort and mutual respect. Outside, the wind whispered across the barren plains, carrying dust and the faint scent of ozone from the repaired ships. Elias sat back, feeling a strange warmth he hadn't known in years. These beings, though alien, seemed almost human in their curiosity and their appreciation. Before retiring to his quarters, the princesses spoke again, their voices softer now, tinged with concern. "Captain Rourke, our presence here is not without risk. Others may follow us. Not all will be as forgiving as you." Elias frowned slightly. "I've been alone a long time. I can handle visitors." They smiled gently, a mix of admiration and warning. "We hope your optimism holds. You are resourceful, but the universe is vast and sometimes unforgiving." With that, they departed to their temporary quarters aboard the ships, leaving Elias alone once more, though not quite in the same way. For the first time in years, he felt anticipation. The quiet of his existence had been broken, replaced by something unfamiliar, a sense of possibility, a spark of excitement. Just as he was about to drift into sleep, the faint hum of alarms echoed through one of the ships. A subtle but urgent signal, barely perceptible against the planetary wind. Elias sat up, heart quickening. Someone or something was approaching. The night had begun peacefully, but it seemed the calm was only a prelude to the challenges that would come with these unexpected visitors. As the stars glittered coldly above Kestara 9, Elias realized that his life of solitude was ending, and a new chapter, full of uncertainty, ingenuity, and perhaps danger, was beginning. He felt ready. He had survived alone for years. Surely he could handle what was coming next. And so, under the alien glow of distant ships and the quiet watch of an endless sky, Captain Elias Rourke prepared for the night, unaware that the arrival of 3 beautiful alien princesses was only the first step toward adventures that would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of human resilience he had cultivated over his long years of isolation. The alarms had faded, leaving a tense silence over the outpost. Captain Elias Rourke had already grabbed his tools and weapons, his mind racing. Years of living alone had honed his instincts. He didn't panic, he assessed. The faint signal from the princess's ship suggested interference, not malfunction, a warning that someone was approaching. Outside, the desert-like terrain of Kestara 9 stretched endlessly under a sky full of stars. The wind carried dust that sparkled faintly in the starlight, and the jagged rocks offered natural cover. Elias moved cautiously, his boots crunching on gravel, scanning for movement. He knew the princess's presence could attract attention. Others in the galaxy might want to capture them, either for political leverage or personal gain. Minutes later, distant figures appeared on the horizon. Small, agile ships hovered low, kicking up clouds of dust. They were humanoid, yet different, mercenaries, not military, their movements quick and practiced. Their glowing armor reflected the starlight, and their weapons emitted faint blue pulses. Elias crouched behind a rock, thinking fast. He had no army, no backup, only his skills, his traps, and his wits. The first rule of survival had never changed: turn disadvantage into advantage. Elias remembered every contour of the land, every weak point in the outpost, every device he had built. He retreated toward his base, leaving small, barely noticeable tripwires and improvised alarms behind him. When the mercenaries arrived, they would walk into traps of human making. Inside the main module, the three alien princesses were alert but calm. They had quickly realized that their temporary stay on Kestara 9 was more dangerous than expected. "Captain Rourke," said the one with violet eyes, her tone controlled, "we did not anticipate pursuit so soon." Elias nodded, tightening a strap on his makeshift energy blaster. "I thought as much, but we have a few advantages they don't expect. They don't know this terrain like I do, and they don't know what humans are capable of when we fight smart instead of strong." The princesses exchanged glances, and a small smile appeared on the one with gold eyes. "We have underestimated humanity," she said. "Perhaps the legends are true." Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans were often seen as weak by other species, fragile and unprepared for the dangers of the galaxy. But they were clever, adaptable, and fearless when their ingenuity was tested. Tonight would be proof of that. As the mercenaries drew closer, Elias activated the first set of traps. Rocks exploded in clouds of smoke. Automated drones buzzed and circled, projecting holographic decoys. The attackers hesitated, unsure of the terrain, and several were caught off guard by sudden bursts of light and noise. Elias moved with precision, using the landscape as a shield. From a rocky ridge, he fired carefully aimed shots, not to kill, but to disable engines and communication arrays. He knew their weapons were superior in firepower, but not in strategy. Every move he made forced the mercenaries to adapt, slowing them down, confusing them, and buying time. The princesses, despite their status and power, were impressed. They used their advanced technology to assist, projecting barriers and hacking minor systems in the enemy ships. Yet even with their skills, Elias remained the strategist. He had lived alone, surviving on limited resources, learning to see patterns, anticipate threats, and manipulate outcomes. Tonight, his human intuition would make the difference. Hours passed. The battle was not just physical, but mental. The mercenaries adapted, probing for weaknesses. Elias anticipated their moves, setting traps that forced them into predictable paths. Rocks fell, energy pulses flashed, and smoke obscured vision. Slowly, the attackers began to retreat, frustrated and outmaneuvered by a single human who refused to panic. In the middle of the chaos, Elias took a moment to glance at the princesses. They were coordinating, adapting, and learning quickly. "Humans are unpredictable," said the one with silver eyes, admiration clear in her tone. "But your courage, your ability to improvise, it is extraordinary." Elias smiled grimly. "It's what we do. We survive, we adapt, and sometimes we win against odds that seem impossible." The last wave of mercenaries faltered. Elias had anticipated their retreat path and set a final trap, an energy net that immobilized several ships while the remaining vessels fled, damaged and disoriented. When silence returned, only the sound of the wind and the distant hum of the repaired ships filled the night. The princesses approached Elias. Their eyes reflected genuine respect and something deeper, gratitude and admiration. "You have saved us, Captain," said the one with gold eyes. "Not through sheer force, but through intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness. You are remarkable." Elias shook his head modestly. "I just do what I have to. Anyone in my place would have done the same." "Perhaps," said the silver-eyed princess, "but humans do it differently. Your creativity, your persistence, it is unlike anything we have seen. You remind us why humanity survives where others fail." For the first time in years, Elias felt a sense of connection. The princesses were not just visitors or strangers. They were witnesses to the strength and spirit of humanity. In their admiration, he saw the reflection of what he had always known. Humans were underestimated, but resilient beyond measure. Over the next few hours, Elias and the princesses repaired the ships fully. They worked together, blending human ingenuity with alien technology. Elias taught them how to optimize limited resources and improvise repairs when critical components were missing. In turn, the princesses shared advanced knowledge about energy manipulation, propulsion, and communication systems. By the time the repairs were complete, a mutual respect had formed, a bond forged in challenge, creativity, and shared danger. As dawn approached, Kestara 9's sky glowed with pale light. The mercenaries were gone, the princesses, ships ready, and Elias stood at the threshold of the outpost, watching the horizon. For years, he had lived in isolation, mastering survival in solitude. Tonight, he had proven not only his own abilities, but also the capabilities of humanity itself. The princesses approached him, their expressions serene. Captain Rourke, said the one with violet eyes, you have shown us that humans, though often underestimated, possess qualities that are invaluable in the galaxy. Courage, ingenuity, persistence. These are strengths that even we, with all our technology and power, admire. Elias felt a rare warmth in his chest. I've lived alone for years, he said, but tonight I realize humans are never truly alone. We adapt, we survive, and we find ways to connect even across galaxies. The princesses smiled, and for a moment the vast emptiness of the planet felt alive with possibilities. They had come seeking shelter for one night, yet they had found in Elias a partner, a friend, and a symbol of human potential. Before departing, the tallest princess extended her hand. You have earned not only our gratitude, but our respect. We will remember this night, and so will others, for the story of what one human achieved here will reach far across the stars. Elias nodded, gripping her hand firmly. If they underestimate humans again, he said, they'll learn quickly. As the ships lifted off, casting long shadows over the rocky plains, Elias watched them disappear into the cosmos. The outpost was quiet once more, but it no longer felt empty. He had survived isolation, mastered adversity, and proven the strength of humanity. Now he had allies, admiration, and a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast, full of danger, wonder, and opportunity. Elias knew he would face challenges again, but for the first time in years he felt ready, not just to survive, but to thrive. He returned to his module, tending his hydroponic gardens and repairing systems, each task a testament to human resilience. And somewhere among the stars, 3 alien princesses carried the story of one human who had faced danger alone, outsmarted foes, and reminded the galaxy why humanity, though fragile in appearance, was a force to be reckoned with. Captain Elias Rourke smiled to himself. The quiet life he had known was gone, replaced by a new chapter of adventure, respect, and connection. He had lived alone for years, and yet, in one extraordinary night, he had shown the galaxy the true power of a single human mind and spirit. And for Elias, that was more than enough. The calm after the battle was deceptive. Kestara 9 winds blew relentlessly across the jagged plains, carrying dust and whispers of a quiet planet that had once been abandoned. Captain Elias Rourke stood outside his outpost, watching the horizon. The 3 alien princesses had left earlier that morning, their ships disappearing into the vast galaxy. He had thought their departure would leave him with his familiar solitude once again. But the events of the previous night had changed him. The quiet life he had known felt incomplete. Elias returned inside, tending to the outpost systems and hydroponic gardens, yet his thoughts kept returning to the princesses. He wondered if they had reached home safely, if their kingdoms would hear the story of one human who had defended them with nothing but ingenuity and courage. More than curiosity, he felt a strange sense of connection. He realized that life, even on a remote planet, was meant for more than mere survival. Days passed. The routines of maintenance, gardening, and observation continued, but there was a subtle tension in the air. Sensors that Elias had placed for general safety picked up unusual energy fluctuations near the landing area. At first, he dismissed them as environmental anomalies, but the readings persisted and grew stronger. One evening, as he monitored the signals, a sudden pulse lit the horizon, ships descending rapidly. They were not the princesses. Elias felt his pulse quicken. His instincts had been honed over years of isolation and survival. He moved quickly, activating the perimeter defenses he had reinforced during the last attack. Automated drones hovered silently, ready to scout, while energy barriers hummed with power. Whoever was coming would find Kestara 9 far from an easy target. The new arrivals landed with precision. Unlike the mercenaries before, these were disciplined, organized, and clearly well-equipped. They stepped out, and Elias could see their insignias glinting in the dim light. These were soldiers from a galactic faction known for political enforcement, a group tasked with protecting certain species and punishing those who interfered with interstellar protocols. It seemed the presence of the princesses on Kestara 9 had triggered a larger investigation. Elias assessed the situation. Fighting directly against such forces would be unwise. His advantage was cleverness, not brute strength. He needed a plan that leveraged his knowledge of the terrain, his traps, and the unpredictable human mind. Moving through the rocks and dust, he set up subtle diversions, false paths, misleading energy signals and decoys that would confuse even disciplined troops. The soldiers advanced methodically, scanning the area with bright, piercing lights. They expected resistance, yet Elias had no intention of confronting them head-on. He allowed them to move into the prepared areas, triggering the first diversions. Rocks shifted, dust clouds erupted, and the sensors he had placed earlier created false readings on their scanners. Confused, the soldiers paused, adjusting their tactics. Elias moved silently, observing every reaction, learning their patterns. Inside the outpost, he activated communication channels previously reserved for emergencies. He sent a discreet signal to the princess's ships. They were far away, but their technology could intercept the signal. Almost instantly, he received a response. "Captain Rourke," said the voice of the tallest princess, calm but urgent. "We detected an unusual increase in energy activity near your location. Are you safe?" "I'm managing," Elias replied. "But I need your help to ensure they don't overwhelm the outpost. Can you create a diversion without being seen?" The princesses agreed. Using their advanced cloaking technology, they created a series of holographic illusions in the nearby space, making it appear as if multiple human defenders had arrived. They projected decoy ships, energy pulses, and false movements. The soldiers hesitated, unsure of how many humans they were facing. Their disciplined formation began to falter, giving Elias the advantage he needed. Elias moved like a shadow through the rocks, setting small, precise traps. Energy nets, remotely activated, immobilized a few advancing drones. Smoke bombs and sound-emitting devices created confusion. He was not trying to destroy the soldiers. He wanted to delay, disorient, and control the battlefield. Each trap was calculated, each move deliberate, reflecting the ingenuity and adaptability that defined humans. As the night progressed, the soldiers began to realize they were facing something more than ordinary resistance. One of their commanders, frustrated, called out for their targets. "They must be here. There is no reason for such irregular patterns. Capture them." Elias remained calm. He knew humans were underestimated because other species assumed brute force would dominate. They had forgotten one critical thing. Humans were not predictable. He used the terrain, the outpost, and his traps in ways that no simulation could anticipate. Rocks tumbled in controlled patterns, energy pulses triggered in sequences, and the soldiers were led into dead ends again and again. From a vantage point, Elias saw a group of the soldiers attempting to flank the outpost. With a swift motion, he triggered a series of small drones that created loud vibrations and bright flashes. The soldiers stumbled, communication disrupted, and the flanking maneuver failed. Elia's calm, calculated actions reflected the essence of human ingenuity, turning scarcity into advantage, thinking creatively under pressure, and refusing to surrender. Meanwhile, the princesses, still cloaked, observed silently. Their admiration grew. "This human," said the one with gold eyes, "he uses his mind as a weapon. No one expected a single human could orchestrate such defenses." Elias smiled faintly to himself. It was true. A single human mind, trained through years of isolation, could outthink even organized groups. Survival had made him clever, adaptable, and fearless. Hours passed. Exhaustion threatened to slow the soldiers' advance, but Elias remained sharp. He had learned to conserve energy, prioritize tasks, and anticipate challenges. Every move he made was deliberate, turning apparent disadvantages into victories. Finally, the soldiers, frustrated and unable to penetrate the outpost's defenses, decided to withdraw. Their formations broke and they retreated toward their ships, leaving Kestara 9 in temporary peace once more. The princesses uncloaked and landed near Elias. Their expressions showed relief, respect, and amazement. "You have done it again," said the silver-eyed princess. "You have protected not only yourselves but your outpost, and perhaps even prevented larger conflicts. Your actions will be remembered." Elias wiped sweat from his brow, feeling a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. "I just do what's necessary," he said. "I've lived alone for years. You survive by thinking, not by expecting others to do it for you." The tallest princess approached him, her golden eyes meeting his. "You are more than a survivor, Elias Rourke. You are an example of human potential. Resilient, clever, and adaptable, humans have a way of thriving where others fail. Tonight, you proved that once again." Elias felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Pride, yes, but also connection. Humans were often underestimated, but when given the chance, they could inspire respect across the stars. He had not only survived, he had shown what it meant to be human. The princesses prepared to leave again, their ships powered and ready. "We must return home," said the one with violet eyes, "but we will not forget this planet, nor the human who defended it with his mind and courage." Elias watched them take off, their ships disappearing into the stars. The outpost was quiet again, but he no longer felt the emptiness he had known for years. He had faced danger, outsmarted enemies, and formed a connection with beings from distant worlds. His solitude had ended not because of companionship alone, but because he had proven the strength of humanity itself. In the following days, Elias worked tirelessly to repair the outpost fully, knowing that while the immediate danger had passed, the galaxy was vast and new challenges would inevitably come. He documented everything he had learned from the princesses, technology, improving his systems, and enhancing his defensive mechanisms. For the first time, he realized that living alone did not mean being powerless. With knowledge, strategy, and determination, a single human could make a difference even on the farthest edge of space. Weeks later, as Elias watched the two suns of Castara 9 rise, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Life was no longer simply survival. It was about thriving, creating, and showing the galaxy the strength and ingenuity of humans. And somewhere far among the stars, the princesses carried the story of one human who had faced overwhelming odds, outwitted disciplined enemies, and demonstrated that even in isolation, humans were capable of extraordinary feats. Elias smiled, tending his gardens, repairing systems, and observing the horizon. The quiet life he had once known was gone, replaced by a sense of readiness, connection, and possibility. The galaxy was wide and full of challenges, but he was no longer afraid. He had survived alone, proven the potential of humanity, and forged a mark that would echo far beyond Castara 9. And so, as the winds of the alien planet swept across the outpost and the suns climbed higher into the sky, Captain Elias Rourke continued his life, not merely as a survivor, but as a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. The galaxy had seen what a single human could accomplish, and it would remember. The weeks following the encounter with the galactic soldiers passed quietly, but Elias Rourke's life was far from the monotony he had once known. The outpost, though still isolated on Castara 9, now seemed alive with purpose. Every system hummed, every leaf in the hydroponic gardens, and every small mechanical device bore testimony to human ingenuity. He had learned from the princesses, advanced technology, and adapted it to his outpost, creating defenses and devices that even he had once thought impossible. One evening, as Castara 9 twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the jagged plains, Elias noticed a faint signal on his sensors. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a distant pulse unlike any natural phenomenon he had encountered. Curiosity, long dormant during his years of isolation, surged through him. He analyzed the signal carefully. It was intelligent, deliberate, and moving closer. Elias activated the outpost's external surveillance drones and sent them out to investigate. The drones returned with images that made him lean forward in surprise. 3 ships, sleek and unfamiliar, were approaching. They were not the princesses' ships, nor the soldiers who had attacked before. These vessels carried a distinct insignia, a coalition of explorers and scientists known to travel the galaxy, seeking new civilizations and rare phenomena. Their approach suggested curiosity, not hostility, but in a place as isolated as Castara 9, Elias could not take anything for granted. The ships landed softly, and 3 humanoid figures stepped out, their suits reflecting the fading sunlight. Elias greeted them cautiously, armed but calm. "I'm Captain Elias Rourke. You are far from any known space lanes," he said. One of the visitors, a tall being with emerald-green eyes, stepped forward. "We are explorers. We detected energy fluctuations and unusual activity in this sector. Your outpost is unusual for a human alone. We wish to investigate." Elias studied them carefully. These beings were highly intelligent, with advanced sensors and equipment. They could be a threat if approached incorrectly, but Elias knew humans had one advantage: creativity and adaptability. "You found what you were looking for," he said. "But I suggest caution. Castara 9 is unpredictable. The explorers smiled, intrigued. "We have sensors and protocols, but your systems here, they show ingenuity far beyond normal human standards. We would like to learn if you are willing." Elias felt a flicker of pride. Humans were often underestimated across the stars, yet here were beings who recognized cleverness, adaptability, and the ability to thrive with limited resources. He decided to demonstrate, not just to impress, but to teach. Over the following hours, Elias guided the explorers through his outpost, showing the intricate hydroponic systems, improvised energy generators, automated drones, and defensive measures he had crafted. He explained how necessity forced him to innovate, how years of isolation sharpened his mind, and how humans could adapt to circumstances that other species might find insurmountable. The explorers were fascinated. They asked questions about resource optimization, energy efficiency, and defense strategies. Elias demonstrated small devices that repurposed waste energy into usable power, traps that could immobilize intruders without causing harm, and advanced communications systems jury-rigged from limited parts. He emphasized one principle above all: humans thrived not because of brute strength or overwhelming technology, but because of creativity, problem-solving, and persistence. While demonstrating a drone network designed to detect and mislead intruders, Elias noticed subtle movements on the horizon. Dust clouds hinted at approaching vehicles, fast-moving, unfamiliar, and numerous. He immediately understood. Someone had tracked the previous conflict, and now they were coming for him or for Kestara 9 itself. He turned to the explorers. "You need to see this. It seems my life here has drawn attention." The explorers quickly analyzed the approaching forces. They were neither soldiers nor diplomats, but a band of marauders known for exploiting isolated worlds. Their ships were fast and agile, equipped with weapons designed to disable systems and capture technology. Elias assessed the situation. He had no desire for open confrontation, but he also refused to let outsiders take what he had built or harm the planet's fragile ecosystem. Drawing upon his years of survival experience, Elias devised a strategy. He instructed the explorers to activate certain systems to simulate multiple defenders scattered across the terrain. Holographic decoys, drones projecting false signals, and energy traps were all deployed. Elias knew the marauders would be confident in their technology, but human unpredictability was a weapon they could not anticipate. As the marauders advanced, Elias guided the explorers in activating their own devices, integrating them with his outpost's defenses. Together, they created illusions of an army where only a few humans actually stood. The marauders hesitated, unsure of the number of opponents. Dust swirled, rocks shifted, and energy pulses flashed in sequences that confused their sensors. Elias moved silently among the rocks, setting small, precise traps. Each step was calculated. Energy nets deployed at crucial points, immobilizing scouts. Small drones emitted bursts of light and sound, disorienting the approaching forces. Elias' mind worked like a machine, predicting enemy movements, adapting in real time, and turning Kestara 9's harsh landscape into an advantage. From a ridge, he observed the marauders' frustration. They had expected an easy approach, but human creativity had turned their advantage into confusion. Elias thought of all the years alone, every challenge, every problem solved, every invention crafted in isolation, and he realized it had all led to this moment. Human perseverance, intelligence, and adaptability were unmatched when put to the test. Hours passed. The marauders tried multiple approaches, yet each was countered by Elias' traps, terrain knowledge, and the explorers' technology. Slowly, their formation broke apart. Exhausted and uncertain, they decided to retreat, realizing that the cost of pursuing the human outpost was far too high. When silence finally returned, Elias stood with the explorers, surveying the battlefield. The outpost was intact, his systems unharmed, and the marauders gone. The explorers expressed admiration and awe. "You have done what few species could," said the green-eyed leader. "Not through power alone, but through intellect, strategy, and courage. Humans are remarkable." Elias felt a rare sense of fulfillment. Years of isolation had taught him resilience, patience, and ingenuity. Humans had been underestimated across the galaxy, yet time and again, he had proven that one human could survive, protect, and even thrive where others failed. Over the following days, Elias worked with the explorers, sharing knowledge, integrating alien technologies, and improving the outpost's defenses and sustainability. They discussed energy optimization, advanced communications, and protective systems that combined human ingenuity with alien science. The collaboration strengthened Elia's belief in human potential. Adaptability, problem-solving, and creativity could elevate humans above challenges that seemed insurmountable. One evening, as Kestara 9 twin suns sank below the horizon, Elias looked out across the plains. He realized that life alone on a remote planet had shaped him into someone capable of extraordinary feats. But now, connected with beings from distant worlds, he felt the universe was no longer so vast and isolating. The galaxy was full of opportunity, knowledge, and allies. The explorers prepared to depart, leaving Elias with supplies, schematics, and equipment that would further enhance his outpost. "Captain Rourke," said the green-eyed leader, "we will carry the story of what a human alone achieved on this world. Your resilience and intellect will be remembered." Elias nodded, a faint smile on his face. "Humans are often underestimated," he said, "but we survive, adapt, and thrive. That's all anyone needs to know." As the explorers' ships lifted off, Elias returned to his work, tending the gardens, repairing systems, and observing the skies. He felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer merely surviving, he was thriving, proving the value of human ingenuity and courage. The galaxy was vast, but humans, he realized, had a spark that could shine in any darkness. Days turned into weeks. Elias received sporadic signals from the princesses, the explorers, and even distant human colonies, all expressing admiration and curiosity. The story of one human on a remote planet protecting visitors, surviving threats, and mastering adversity spread quietly across interstellar networks. He had become a symbol, not out of desire for recognition, but as a testament to the human spirit. One night, as Elias gazed at the stars, he felt a sense of connection stronger than ever. Solitude had taught him survival, but collaboration and ingenuity had taught him purpose. Humans were underestimated, fragile to some, weak to others, yet resilient, clever, and adaptive in ways that could change worlds. Elias Rourke smiled. The outpost no longer felt empty. The galaxy was no longer distant. And he knew that whatever challenges came next, be they isolation, danger, or the unknown, humans would face them with intelligence, courage, and persistence. One human could survive alone. One human could defend worlds. One human could inspire respect across the stars. And Captain Elias Rourke, the man who had once lived alone on a quiet, dusty planet, had proven it. The winds of Kestara 9 continued to blow, dust swirling across the jagged plains. But the outpost stood firm, a beacon of human ingenuity and determination. And somewhere far beyond the stars, beings from distant worlds whispered tales of the human who had mastered solitude, outwitted enemies, and shown the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. Elias returned to his gardens, adjusting systems and monitoring sensors. He knew the galaxy held mysteries, challenges, and dangers yet unseen. But he also knew that with creativity, adaptability, and courage, humans could face anything. Alone or not, Elias Rourke embodied the indomitable spirit of humanity, and the stars had taken notice. For the first time in his life, he did not feel alone.